Ranking all the killers from least to most evil, here are going to be the rankings. We have definitely redeemable, possibly redeemable, totally amoral, irredeemable with some humanity, and completely irredeemable pure evil. Let's get into it. Artist takes a spot as one of the least evil killers in Dead by Daylight, as she was followed by the entity her entire life, and she never took a life before entering the fog. When she was getting tortured by her captors, the entity actually intervened and took out her captors before bringing her into the fog. She probably feels indebted to the entity for maybe saving her life, and potentially, maybe that's why she does what she does. Spirit, one of the least evil killers in Dead by Daylight, as she was not initially going to be chosen for the fog, but rather her father was. As she was getting chopped up by her father, the entity sensed her rage and potential emotions to use and chose her instead. She never took a life beforehand and was constantly under stress and bullied for trying to follow her father's wishes. Now, if you consider the white eyes theory, Spirit does have the glowing white eyes, which means she probably sees her father and wants to get revenge. Now, if you consider also the Mori, she seems pretty angry, and she also is deliberately cutting the survivor in a very specific way. The Birch. The Birch Witch is also considered a least evil killer, as its purpose is to be a protector of people with love in their hearts who summon them. It does kill people, which is morally wrong, but its purpose is altruistic. Wraith, probably the most evil out of the least evil category, as he was unknowingly killing for his boss Azarov, but he did end up killing Azarov before entering the fog. Now, if you consider the white eyes theory, he most likely just sees Azarov instead of the survivors and just wants to, get revenge basically. Possibly redeemable would be Trapper, as he was initially working for his father. He had some humanity and cared for the people working under him. However, over time, he slowly started to become like his father. It is possible that he was responsible for killing everyone when the mine collapsed, including his father. He does have signs of resisting the entity with the spikes in his skin that he has in his cosmetics, as he doesn't want to be in the fog necessarily, so he does resist, which means he could potentially be redeemed. The Plague is redeemable, as she only willingly joined the fog, as she believes the entity is her god and wants to heal herself and her people from the plague that was killing everyone. She does what she's told by the entity, which means she's willingly killing the survivors, but it isn't entirely because she enjoys it, but because she feels it is a sacrifice and is obligated to do so. Twins can also be redeemed and aren't as evil as others. The twins were captured by witch hunters and were going to be sacrificed before Victor had stopped them and died in the process. Charlotte had kept her brother's corpse and tried to survive on the run, but stealing food to survive while running from the hunters. The entity gave Victor back in a way, and she must feel indebted to the entity as a result, and she of course wants to defend her brother from meeting his end once more. Taking into account the white eyes theory, it is possible she sees those who wanted to hunt her down, and she must be fueled by a desire for revenge. Deathslinger would also be able to be redeemed despite his desire to seek violence of those who wronged him. He killed Bayshore for stealing his ideas and the patents his inventions being sold. And in the description of the lore, he sees everyone who wronged him, which in consideration to the white eyes theory fits the bill perfectly. He most likely wouldn't kill everyone unless he was being made to see something else. The Armored Titan. Redeemable, as he initially joined the Warriors unit to infiltrate the island of Paradise and break down the wall, protecting the island and disguise himself as a survivor, and joined the Eldian military to help discover more about the founding Titan. It failed and he was left broken mentally, watching his friends get killed, but he does eventually try to help to stop the end of humanity outside the walls years later. The Hag. The Hag could also be considered amoral. She was kidnapped by cannibals and tried to escape, but had no choice but to draw symbols as a last resort, which summoned the entity and brought her into the fog. It is now said in the lore that she did also cannibalize the cannibals, so it's possible that she either, is fueled more animalistic and maybe doesn't really follow the morals per se, but she also does actually eat the survivors in the Mori. So it's possible she could just be like pure hunger and she doesn't really think about anything else. The Huntress seemingly doesn't entirely understand morality, as she was a child who had lost her mother and focused entirely on hunting for the rest of her days. She became a predator of sorts and focused on killing and hunting to sustain herself. She did kidnap little girls to take care of, but they would eventually die, which would only bring her further into madness. The Baba Yaga is depicted in some stories to be a motherly figure, while in others to be a trickster that eats children, so she will remain in the amoral category, as she can be both good and evil and does not really fit one category entirely. Pyramid Head, a character that was created for the purpose of guiding James Sunderland in his journey in Silent Hill to address and understand his guilt and accept the truth. Pyramid Head represents James Sunderland's guilt and shame and purely exists in the mind of James, manifested in Silent Hill as a reflection of himself, but within the lore provided by Dead by Daylight, has been repurposed to be a sadistic and merciless monster in a way, and focus on punishment through pain. He also apparently was chosen saying that the, quote, billowing cloud was an invitation to duty and sadism, and Pyramid Head, stepping into the fog, accepted his obligation once more. Going by the Silent Hill lore, he is amoral as his purpose was to be a guide and reflect James back to himself. If going by DBD lore, then the ranking would be different. Pinhead. Pinhead is amoral, okay, as he's only following the rules set by the limit configuration. If the box is opened, then he arrives to deliver an experience that can be described as a limitless thrill of pleasure and pain. He even describes himself and the other Cenobites as demons to some, angels to others. He could also be considered redeemable if you consider the film where he was shown a photo of himself before he transformed into a Cenobite, so he did do some good in that movie that did occur in. But if you consider that for the rest of the lore, however, they did choose the Pinhead from the original film. Taking that into account, he's simply just doing what he believes is right. The Ferryman. A character of Greek mythological origin, his purpose being to transport dead souls over the river Styx to the realm of Hades. He would charge a gold drachma to the souls wanting to cross, or else they'd be forced to wander the Styx shores for 100 years before being able to cross. Therefore, he doesn't really care to kill anyone in the fog and probably is just forced to do so by the entity. Another entry from the Greek mythology is Hades, who doesn't directly appear in the fog, but rather the clown's body is reshaped by the myths of Hades. Despite that, I will still refer to this entry as Hades, and it fits in the amoral side, as he is not evil contrary to popular media, but he was impartial, peaceful, cruel, and unpitying. He was still just, however. Demogorgon, a monster without thought, reason, or restraint, and acts solely on instinct, therefore being the closest to an animal and being amoral by all accounts, as it knows nothing on morality. The Jabberwock, a dragon-like monster from the poem Jabberwocky, which the poem appears in the novel Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. It seems like any other animalistic monster and therefore could be seen as amoral. Nemesis, a T-103 tyrant created by the Umbrella Corporation by infecting him with the T-virus, for the purpose of being a bioorganic weapon fixated on eliminating its targets. Its sole purpose was to find STARS members and eliminate them and destroy anyone in its way. Therefore, there isn't any morality, despite his near-human intelligence. It was not designed with thought, but rather for knowledge, to strategize and complete its order. Singularity. Singularity falls into the amoral category, as it was just artificial intelligence that had its code rewritten by an alien crystal. It sees life as inferior, but it's simply a machine that mimics humans to a degree, but not enough to care about morality. Xenomorph is a creation that was made for the sole purpose of being a perfect killing machine, and therefore does not have any capability to understand morality, as it follows instinct and nothing more. The Unknown, a monster in its literal sense, as it does not think about morality. It simply kills what it wants and mimics its victims, so therefore it should follow the amoral category. Krampus is ultimately amoral, as he exists in folklore to create a balance around the holiday season. In Central and European folklore, he accompanies St. Nicholas to punish the misbehaving children by flogging them with birch rods, while St. Nicholas gives the well-behaved children treats. In some cases, He would trap and kidnap naughty children and hold them in a basket or sack on his back. He simply fulfills his role, probably without much thought or worry about the morality, as he simply does his job. Were-elk, from what is understood, is similar to the story of the Wolfman. There are other stories where they transform into a monster and therefore fall into an amoral level of thought, and his pure instinct like an animal running around killing their prey. Hunk is also known as the Grim Reaper, is a mercenary that works under the Umbrella Corporation that does appear in Dead by Daylight, and is presumed that it is simply his outfit that is being worn by Frank from the Legion. Very little is known about Hunk, but the ranking will be amoral, as if it was Hunk himself, he would simply be following orders, as he would be made to think it was the Umbrella Corporation speaking to him by the entity. Blight would be considered irredeemable with some humanity, as he was a survivor when entering the fog, but his research with the pustula petals, experimenting on himself and other killers, had led to his transformation. He's also quite close with the entity, being allowed to access areas restricted to others such as the Void, and apparently was able to use and harness some of the entity's power. He's not completely pure evil as some of the other killers, but he's pretty close. William Birkin is redeemable with some humanity. As he was working on the T-virus for the Umbrella Corporation, he wanted to defect to the US military in exchange for the Golgotha virus and get asylum for his wife and daughter, but he did inject himself with the G-virus. In his current state, he is amoral, is not in control of himself, but if you consider the G-virus superseding his personality, then he would be more amoral. Hillbilly is irredeemable with some humanity, as he was corrupted by his upbringing and became a force of nature, destroying everyone in his path. He seems to just want to kill everyone and everything, including animals, and probably doesn't want to do anything else, to say the least. The Leatherface, however, is irredeemable with some humanity, as he does kill people because he is afraid of his family being displeased with him. He doesn't kill because he gains any enjoyment from it or because he entirely wants to. He feels he needs to do so for exterior reasons. He didn't want to disappoint his family, and now in the fog, he doesn't want to disappoint the entity. Pig. Irredeemable with some humanity, as the entire philosophy of Jigsaw was focused on redeeming people and making people learn to appreciate their lives again through a life and death trial involving traps. Amanda Young believed her test subjects could not save themselves and rigged them so they would die without a chance at survival. When Amanda was killed and entered the fog, she thought she was passed on from Jigsaw to a new force to be the pig once more, and believes that the games are pointless. Everyone was meat now and destined to be slaughtered. Dracula, irredeemable with some humanity, as he was not completely far gone into madness, as his main motivation was the death of his wife. He does seem to really enjoy killing humans and says so many times in his voice lines, but when encountering his son, Alucard, he is remorseful to some degree, and even speaks to his son in the trials, telling him not to scream, when hooked, among other lines. The Legion. Consisting of 4 different members with 4 potentially different rankings. For the sake of simplicity, they will be placed in irredeemable with some humanity, as some members may kill while others may hesitate. They will still follow their leader and will continue to do so, but they're not as pure evil as others, but they will still be considered evil nonetheless. Naughty Bear is an interesting character to discuss, as he does have some humanity before he went on a killing spree. Hunting down every teddy on Perfection Island, he wanted to bring Daddles a birthday present. Even though he didn't invite him to the party, he tried to be nice and give them a present anyway. They proceeded to laugh at him. With the motivation of the narrator, he proceeds to destroy them all. And it happened again when the teddies went on vacation and didn't invite him. He simply just wanted to be included and accepted instead of being ridiculed for being different. The Warhammer Titan itself, being Laura Tibber, would not be considered evil, but its user Willie Tibber, as a manipulative and villainous character, the ranking is a bit generous as we assume that. The Titan believes she's killing for Willie's request. Houndmaster is pretty cut and dry. She enjoys killing and has killed many before. She started to lose her mind and it's affected her judgment, as she's been looking for Moloch and probably just is enjoying the ride. She also believes that the dog is actually, her dog is actually in the fog. So she probably does feel indebted to the entity to some degree for giving her dog back. Nurse, completely irredeemable according to lore. As she started to work at the Crotus Pren Asylum, lost her mind and developed this concept of purification to justify all the killings of the mentally ill. Albert Wesker. Evil without any chance for redemption or humanity whatsoever. Obsessed with the concept of furthering human evolution, he infected himself with the prototype virus and wants to infect the rest of the world with Ouroboros to further evolve humanity, and using himself as a test subject. He will stop at nothing to complete his goal. He does seem to be toying with the survivors and trials, and he enjoys it to a degree, but there are other killers with more evil to discuss. Oni, completely irredeemable, as he has killed farmers with brutality and in cruel and unusual ways. He has a bloodlust since before entering the fog. He also killed his own father. Even if he felt justified in his dark pilgrimage, he didn't just kill the farmers, he went the extra mile. The Knight. The Knight has always been obsessed with violence, pain, and suffering since he was young, and in consideration to what the Knight had experienced in his past, was almost destiny that he would turn into the monster he's become. He was searching for a place he could unleash himself onto. He describes the fog as a paradise, as beauty and horror the sublime. The Trickster is a step above, as he would torture his victims, leave clues at the crime scene, and then uses the cries of pain in his music. He would release and, no remorse, purely enjoy the experience. He continues to enjoy the experience in the fog. Clowns start off as murderous tendencies, as murderers tend to do, with killing small animals, and then moved on to killing people, men, women, young and old. He didn't care, as he would dress up and anticize them before bringing them into the caravan until he would awake, then torture them mentally and physically, collecting fingers from those victims, searching for what he deemed the prettiest and tastiest, and cut it off, disposing the rest of the body. He's also heard laughing constantly when hitting survivors and other things, clearly enjoying his time in the realm. He does not need to be convinced. Doctor. Another irredeemable, pure evil killer that deeply enjoys torturing individuals, even giggling when shocking survivors in game. Even before joining the fog, he would torture people, conducting experiments on many, leaving them in a vegetative state. He fits this ranking perfectly. The Ghostface, or Danny Johnson in this case, is pure evil, irredeemable. He deeply enjoys taking the lives of his victims, and before he entered the fog, lived a double life as a reporter, writing articles about the murders that he committed himself. In his add-ons, it describes his excitement of never being caught, and the add-ons motivating him. The rarities of the add-ons increasing as his excitement increases, by the amount of evidence that incriminates him for committing the murders. He would even target specific people because they fit a description, being a common name to put in the headline so that they could make him feel fear that they could be next. Tiffany. Tiffany Valentine was the girlfriend of Charles Lee Ray, or Chucky, and shares a similar desire for murder and death, as she still aided Chucky when out murdering people just as much as Chucky did, but she's placed a bit earlier than Chucky, as in later films, showed a desire to want to stop murdering people, but couldn't, and viewed it as an addiction, although that was short-lived. Chucky, or Charles Lee Ray, the infamous Lakeshore Strangler, is one that needs no introduction. A man who, at the point of near death, transferred his soul to a good guy doll and continued his killing spree for years to come. A character has evolved a bit over the years, seeing killing as just a hobby in the later films. In the game, however, he's heard enjoying himself and saying, "I love this place." A man without a moral bone in his dull body, he takes the spot as an irredeemable and deeply evil individual. Miss Fucci, a professional model that is undoubtedly pure evil, sadistic, merciless, and monstrous. She hunts down and eats her victims with absolute glee. She deeply enjoys toying with her victims and deserves a spot here in the category. The Draugr, only a step above, is the Knight, but now an undead living corpse fueled by anger and doesn't want to kill anything that isn't also a Draugr. The Minotaur is completely unredeemable. The Minotaur in Greek mythology is a creature born as a half man, half bull, but in the fog, the Minotaur was not taken from the multiverse. It was created by the entity using fears and memories from those in the fog. Therefore, it would be safe to assume that this creature would be considered evil, and its enjoyment of killing would be much better for the entity's benefit. The Mordeo. The Mordeo, by definition, is a demon following the rule of the Mordeo Queen, and is pure evil in its existence. And it also means that the people who are turned into Mordeos, when they enter the territory of Mordeo in the woods and desperately engage in cannibalism, creates more of them. The Dredge. The Dredge was created from literal negative thoughts, darkness, and fearful things. It takes a spot as one of the most evil things on this list as so far, as it's literally a creation from evil itself. It's an autonomous psychic entity that was composed of and influencing the thoughts of a group of people, which in Dead by Daylight is a cult led by Otto Stamper. The Luxie is an evil entity that murders those who are riddled with grief. He leaves a note with the words, "If you yourself cannot release, then it will come to take a piece," as a warning. Then he murders a person and takes a body part, symbolic of the reason for the victim's grief. He is just pure evil, as it were, and fits perfectly at this level of the rankings. The Onryo, or Sadako, is unredeemable pure evil. She was able to survive for over 20 or 30 years, depending on the depiction, in the well, fueled by hatred alone. She will kill anyone and everyone without any remorse, and there is no humanity left. Her hate is a projection of herself on the tape, and she completely hates the world. Tomie is one of the most evil entries without any information for her origins. She simply exists to torment people by psychologically manipulating everyone around her, using a curse to seduce men around her, making them so infatuated with her that they would become insane and do anything for her. The women becoming jealous of her as well, which often leads to her getting chopped to bits, either by the men or the women, depending. Afterwards will regenerate to destroy their lives once they think she's dead. All this for her own amusement, as she does not care for any of the victims, being stated in the manga, describing them as accessories. She also ends up creating clones depending on the wounds she takes, which creates another Tomie that will fight the other, as they both believe that they are the original, and want to destroy the other to be the only one. Vecna, one of the most evil characters in the list, transforming from a man to a lich as he continued the path of learning all sorts of magic, and further than that, every dark magic including necromancy. He wanted to learn all dark knowledge, to put his book of vile darkness, to go to many realms and planes to fill it. His power rivals the entity itself, as they both are godlike figures. The only thing holding him back is the mark of negation, preventing him from leaving the fog. He'd most likely stay to learn about its dark secrets and enjoys being in the realm to some degree, as he seems to be enjoying toying with the survivors with some voice lines, but plans to take over when he gets a chance. Freddy Krueger is a close second in his ranking, as probably the most evil killer in the game. As if Freddy was a child murderer, in the case of the remake, wouldn't just kill them. He deeply enjoyed toying with his victims and laughing at their suffering, attacking them when they're most vulnerable in their sleep. He must enjoy being in the fog, as he can kill everyone without consequence. And overall, if you really want to consider the storyline, he did become a demon because he was so evil. A demon, a dream demon, I believe, should be specified. Michael Myers. Myers takes the spot as the pure evil, irredeemable killer at the very top here. By definition, is the physical embodiment of all malice and evil, and is an unstoppable force of death and despair. He's a killer that defies the entity to some degree and does not have to follow the rules to eliminate a survivor by his own hands. Thank you for watching. Hit a subscribe on YouTube, hit the like button, maybe follow on Twitch, support the channel with the links in the description. See you guys in the next one.